Rwanda finds genocide grave that could contain 30,000 bodies. The Rwandan genocide, also known as the genocide against the Tutsi, was a mass slaughter of Tutsi, Twa, and moderate Hutu in Rwanda, which took place between April 7 and July 15, 1994 during the Rwandan Civil War. The scale and brutality of the massacre caused shock worldwide, but no country intervened to forcefully stop the killings. Most of the victims were killed in their own villages or towns, many by their neighbors and fellow villagers. Hutu gangs searched out victims hiding in churches and school buildings. The militia murdered victims with machetes and rifles. An estimated 500,000 to 1 million Rwandans were killed, about 70% of the country's Tutsi population. Sexual violence was rife, with an estimated 250,000 to 500,000 women raped during the genocide. Absolutely horrific. You can finish your prison sentence after being sentenced for /genocide /. Word of the Valley Dam and the bodies it held emerged as many people convicted in the genocide are being released from prison after serving their sentences and offering new information on mass graves. That's not even 30 years ago. WTF. We show Hotel Rwanda to our US history classes every year when we cover genocide so they understand how quickly it can turn for a group of people. It's also good to illustrate propaganda. It's a painful reminder of the horrible point in history for the Tutsi people. I worked with an Asian man, this is relevant, who lived there during the massacre. His family were missionaries or something and they were riding a bus that was stopped by one of the warring factions. They made everybody get off the bus and he stood there as people he knew, and kids he was friends with, were mowed down by machine gun fire. He and his family were allowed to live because they obviously were not the enemy. This all came to light when we were having an office conversation, and being in the military, the stance he was taking in this conversation, which pertained to combat and killing the enemy or something, was extremely passive. So much so I had to ask why he was so against killing the enemy and he then explained the whole thing. All I can say is I understood his view on the matter and I felt extremely sorry for him and what he saw and endured as a young boy. Crazy shit, man. Crazy shit. Thoroughly recommend. We wish to inform you that tomorrow we will be killed with our families. Amazing book. Heart-wrenching. Rwandan genocide is one of the most terrifying incidents in human history. I have read accounts of victims who have described how their own friends and neighbors turned on them and committed horrific crimes. It's scary how propaganda can so easily manipulate people to commit such acts. The violence in Rwanda was horrifying, but I hear they have been doing well recently. I worked with a man who had immigrated to the US from Rwanda, but his family was stuck in the country. He told me just how awful it was to be forced to sit and watch it happen, not knowing anything more than anyone else. His family just had to watch the news every day, hoping for some inkling of hope that their family was okay. After the RPF moved into the capital and established a relative peace, though there was still violence happening, he got on a plane and went to try and find his family. He searched for a few weeks but couldn't even find their bodies. He said that one of the most harrowing things he saw were the thousands of shoes in the streets of Kigali. He eventually found his sister, but she was all that was left. While hiding from the genocide, her baby died of malnourishment. It's beyond description what happened there. And even after things are not all well, they are better certainly, but far from great. That same sister had another child years later, and one day a friendly woman asked to hold the baby. Of course, she let the woman hold the child, but within seconds she started crushing the child in an attempt to kill the baby. All because the kid was Tutsi. Edit, should have been clearer at the end there. The child's ribs were crushed and they died the next day. The saddest part I read was when it was all over and they were talking about how to punish those involved and they realized it was so widespread they would have to lock up most of the country. So they had to let most people off with their crimes. This wasn't an army attack or war, it was huge number of people killing their neighbors. The genocide lasted for 100 days. In that time between 500,000 and 1 million people were killed. That's 5,000 to 10,000 murders per day. A grave of 30,000 people is approximately 3 to 6 days worth of killing. Or, about 10/9/11. Insane. I read Shake Hands with the Devil by Romeo Dallaire as well as a few other books about the genocide, and it really struck me how the media bait on the genocideers. Radio broadcasts calling Tutsis cockroaches and basically ordering people to go out and kill. I really recommend the book for anyone trying to understand the situation in Rwanda in that period, or if you just have a morbid curiosity about the depths of human evil. Authorities said the dam was dug years before the genocide to provide water for rice farming. I worked with a guy who was peacekeeping in Rwanda during the genocide. He was in charge of handing out protective gear to the people who dug graves and then paying them at the end of the day. It's insane that getting out of prison after being convicted of participating in a genocide is actually a thing. None of those people ever should have ever left prison again. For anyone interested, the UN collected testimonies from survivors of the genocide. It is some of the most horrific accounts I have ever read. Testimonies, https://www.org/n/prevent-genocide/Rwanda/survivor-testimonies. SHTML, https://www.org/n/prevent-genocide/Rwanda/survivor-testimonies. SHTML. Deleted. I once met a man who was thankfully able to escape the genocide as a child. He was truly one of the most inspirational people I've ever met. He grew into such a charitable and happy guy after that beginning, and it should serve as a lesson to all of us. Hotel Rwanda is a great movie revolving around those terrible events. The biggest tragedy is that despite knowledge of the events, no other country stepped in and got involved. Similar events are happening in Syria to some extent, and it's sad that more isn't being done. Highly recommended. Hotel Rwanda, https://en. Wikipedia, org/wiki/hotel_Rwanda. As a human, makes me sad that this is a bump in a news cycle that a large town or city was assassinated and no one noticed, makes me sigh. If anyone wants to learn more about the Rwandan genocide, the movie Hotel Rwanda, https://m. imdb.com/title/tt0395169/ shows how truly horrific the event was. I highly recommend this movie as a must-see. Also read In Praise of Blood, The Crimes of the Rwandan Patriotic Front by Judy Rever to learn about crimes committed by Kagame and the RPF and the tens of thousands of Hutus that died alongside and the second genocide in Zaire afterwards. That is not a grave, that is something I have no words for. No money in that war equals no help. The efficiency of this fucking genocide was just brutal. It only lasted 2.5 months with 500,000 to 1 million killed. What's worse is it was done mainly with machetes and neighbors killing neighbors. I read Romeo Dallaire's book Shake Hands with the Devil. I would recommend it to anyone who is interested in this. It describes the UN's failure to stop the genocide and details, as he calls it, the failure of humanity in Rwanda. Anyone who lived during the time knows that the official numbers were a low ball at best. My parents and friends that grew up during the time has told me horror stories. That's one of the main reasons I'm in the USRN. I feel like no one talks about this genocide. Although it may not be US history, it should be acknowledged more. Such a tragedy. A friend of our family is a survivor of this. She still is afraid of fireworks because it reminds her of the horrors. I also watched Rwanda Hotel a few weeks ago. If you want to understand the brutality of the genocide, I recommend you to see it. It's pure horror, because it should be fiction, but it's not.